In fact, his cultivation level has long reached the peak of this world. Due to the high-intensity 996 work in his previous life, he died suddenly in front of the computer. God took pity on him and allowed him to live again. This life. Hua Azure-Cloud is an ordinary direct disciple of the Azure-Cloud Sword Sect in the Oceanic Primordial Domain. He holds onto the life goal of working 9 to 5, and will not participate in any trend of intense competition. He wishes to live a stable and peaceful life. However, things did not go as planned. The sect he is in is also deeply involved in intense competition. All disciples are as if they have been injected with chicken blood. Today is the same as usual. Hua Azure-Cloud is lying under a tree fishing. This is also complained about by many ordinary disciples. At this moment, his little fans walked up from behind. Senior brother Hua sect leader is looking for you to inquire about the details of yesterday's task in the main hall. Fortunately, Hua Azure-Cloud always ensures there is no infighting by keeping his junior brother's cultivation level confidential. In any world, it's always the same. The greater the ability, the more responsibilities one has. This is an immortal cultivation world, divided into 6 stages. They are the Chi refining stage, Spirit transformation stage, Spirit consolidation stage, Spirit palace stage. The Violet Mansion stage and the Immortal Ascension stage are further divided into 9 layers each. And this Azure-Cloud Sword Sect leader is a peerless powerhouse at the 6th layer of the Immortal Ascension stage. He is given the nickname Azure-Cloud Sword Immortal Serene Sword, but no one knows that he is actually a tea enthusiast. Hua Azure-Cloud uses techniques from cultivating succulents in his past life and modern cultivation to produce tea leaves. He grasps it directly and firmly. After all, pleasing the leader is a compulsory course for employees. Hua Azure-Cloud took out the bead he picked up after killing a disciple of Demonic Cloud Sect the day before. Seeing this, Serene Sword's expression immediately turned serious. Blood Essence Jewel? He was about to tell Hua Azure-Cloud the purpose of Demonic Cloud Sect. But he immediately refused. I don't want to listen. I don't want to know anything. Just kidding. If I listen, won't that mean I have to work overtime? Having said that, Hua Azure-Cloud ran off at full speed. But he was called back by Serene Sword nevertheless. After a brief argument, he then informed Hua Azure-Cloud that due to missing the sword technique assembly last time, many hall masters asked me to revoke your direct disciple status. But Hua Azure-Cloud, who heard this, was thrilled in an instant. You know, if he becomes an inner disciple, who would dare accuse him of slacking off? The soul of a couch potato Hua Azure-Cloud burned instantly, and he directly inquired about when to revoke the identity of this direct disciple. Serene Sword looked at the smiling Hua Azure-Cloud, feeling more and more annoyed. He was just about to lose his temper. A sweet voice came into the hall. Sect leader and senior brother Hua have been greeted. The unexpected visitor turns out to be Yu Hart, the chief disciple of Azure-Cloud Sword Sect. At a young age, she has already reached the Violet Mansion Stage 4 layer, making her seen as the future successor by the entire sect. Old Couch Potato Hua Azure-Cloud is ranked last among the direct disciples. However, what puzzles you Blade Heart is that tens of thousands of inner disciples in the sect work day and night. They only strive to become direct disciples as soon as possible, but this senior brother prefers to somersault 360 degrees and jump down. But Hua Azure-Cloud has found an excuse for himself. He says that he has been stuck at the Spirit Palace stage for a long time. So he wants to consolidate his foundation starting from an inner disciple level. Then he will look for an opportunity to break through the bottleneck. Yu Hart immediately showed a worshipful expression after hearing it. She didn't expect senior brother Hua to be so progressive. It's completely different from the rumors. Blade Heart is superficial. Ha ha ha. Junior sister is being polite. Serene Sword called upon Yu Hart this time. It's because several hall masters made a request to Hua Azure-Cloud. They want him to carry out the mission together with Yu Hart. learn from the diligence of their chief disciple. At this moment, Hua Azure-Cloud had a black expression on his face. You should know that Yu Jade Heart is the king of the sect's internal strife. With his own power, he drives the intensity of internal strife within the sect. However, he is a couch potato himself, the king of slacking. Obviously, he and her are not compatible at all. How can they go on a mission together? So he decided to refuse the mission on the grounds that he was too inexperienced. But Yu Jade Heart's eyes lit up. She wanted to support him and progress together, planning to let him prove himself in this mission and dispel the rumors. At this moment, a creature named Fukum is freely running in Hua Azure-Cloud's heart. Wow, she seems to be attempting moral coercion, trying to pull me into the vortex. But I am not an easy target. He directly used the threat of tea leaves needing care to manipulate. I thought it would be easy to deal with Serene's sword. But who would have expected that he would be ruthless this time as well? In order to stop Hua Azure-Cloud from slacking off, he directly offered amazing benefits. As long as he completes this task, he can take 3 days of paid leave. Upon hearing this, Hua Azure-Cloud almost ascended to the sky. Completing the task means she can slack off for 3 days. The key is there's still the salary. I, Hua Azure-Cloud, have taken on this task. Not even Jesus can stop me. The next day, Yu Jade Heart arrived early at the sect training ground. By noon, she had already swung her sword 3,000 times, drenched in sweat. And our king of slacking had just woken up from sleep. Junior sister is so diligent. Yu Jade Heart was complaining that he was already 15 minutes late. Feeling disgruntled, she felt that this senior brother was being too lazy. Hua Azure-Cloud disagreed. As a laborer, one should just lay flat and relax. Why work so hard? Okay. Junior sister, I will double my cultivation efforts in the future. Yu Jade Heart looked helpless. It's getting late. Let's set out. On the way, both Hua Azure-Cloud and Yu Blade Heart felt that the villagers' disappearances were probably related to the demonic Cloud sect. When Hua Azure-Cloud heard Yu Blade Heart say that he wanted to protect himself with a low cultivation level, Heart blossomed with joy. He couldn't help but sigh that hiding cultivation level is really good. Not only did he latch onto a great opportunity, but he also has 3 days of paid leave. This time, he really hit the jackpot. Before long, the two of them arrived above the village of Sky Cloud Mountain Range. Just as Yu Jade Heart was about to discuss and gather information from villagers separately, she saw Hua Azure-Cloud rummaging through his bosom. He then took out a pocket watch and started counting down. 4, 3, 2, 1. It's 5 o'clock. I'm off duty now. Junior sister, I'm going to take a break first. I'll leave the task of gathering information to you. Before Yu Jade Heart could react, Hua Azure-Cloud had already run a kilometer away. In the village of Dim Fragrance Pavilion. Shopkeeper, open a room for me. Hua Azure-Cloud looked at the shopkeeper's arm. In an instant, he saw through the trick. But I don't care about him. Now it's my rest time. Hua Azure-Cloud lying on the bed remembered his little junior sister. But he felt that with her cultivation level, there shouldn't be any big problems. So, he went straight into dreamland. He didn't sleep for long. There was a noisy sound coming from outside the door. Hua Azure-Cloud found the sound very familiar. Just walked out of the room. Saw Yu Jade Heart arguing with the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper refused to let Yu Jade Heart stay, claiming that the rooms were all full. So Hua Azure-Cloud let her share a room with him. But when Yu Jade Heart heard this, her face instantly turned red, and she began to daydream. Unless you want to sleep on the streets. With a bucket of cold water splashed by Hua Azure-Cloud, Yu Jade Heart's blush immediately receded. Anyway, Hua Azure-Cloud couldn't beat herself no matter what he wanted to do to her. After all, her senior brother is just a small fry in the Spirit Palace stage. In the room, Hua Azure-Cloud ignored little red-faced Yu Blade Heart. He asked while eating, "Have you had dinner?" Yu Jade Heart instantly perked up upon hearing this. As cultivators, we should keep a clear mind and remain calm, resisting the temptation of food. But before she could finish speaking, a pastry came flying towards her, silencing her chattering little mouth. Jade-Heart pursed her lips and took the opportunity to eat the pastry. The pastry instantly stimulated her taste buds. The pastry is sweet but not greasy, melting in the mouth with a hint of fragrance. It is as sweet as a clear stream. At this moment, she is completely captivated by the pastry. Hua Azure-Cloud ignored little junior sister's counterattack and started a nonsensical lecture directly. He baffled Jade-Heart. With a heart so clear, the truth is seen. By truth embraced, all forms convene. Untouched within, true freedom's found. In constant flow, where nature's crown. Just now, Hua Azure-Cloud finished speaking nonsense, looking at the silly Jade-Heart, thinking that her brain had a short circuit. And then, Jade-Heart suddenly shouted, "Senior brother, I understand now." Without saying another word, she reached directly into the bowl. Hua Azure-Cloud watched as the visible pastry disappeared. He felt directly despairing. "My dessert!" After a burst of madness between the two, he lay on the bed with a look of disdain on his face. Jade-Heart, feeling guilty, sat cross-legged. She began to cultivate. The room, which had just been bustling with excitement, soon quieted down. As time passed, a dark figure appeared outside the house. After a while, thick smoke continued to permeate the room. Soon, the newly entered Jade-Heart met her fate unexpectedly. She was most concerned about her senior brother with a low cultivation level, reminding him to escape quickly. What she didn't know was, Hua Azure-Cloud is a top expert in this sect with a hidden cultivation level. Such a little trick is completely useless against him. The scene shifts. In a small grove outside the village, the innkeeper knelt on both knees and reported to the master. Jade-Heart and two others have been bewitched. The mysterious man's face lit up the moment he heard the name Jade-Heart. However, he had never heard of Hua Azure-Cloud. He must be an insignificant figure. The male in the tree fork is indeed the mastermind behind the disappearance case of the villagers. At this moment, the man leaped down. He quickly took care of the shopkeeper. He then sent 3 and 4 to bring back Jade-Heart and the other person. While on the side of Hua Azure-Cloud, Jade-Heart groggily opened her eyes. The first thing she thought of after waking up was grabbing him and running away. And he was looking at his silly little junior sister with a speechless expression on his face. Jade-Heart also snapped back to reality at this moment. Why is senior brother Hua, who has a lower cultivation level than herself, fine? How come the spirit-breaking incense had no effect on him with his cultivation level? It turns out that when he checked in at this inn, he noticed that the innkeeper was acting suspiciously. So he remained on guard the whole time. Afterwards, he found an excuse of not having practiced his skills to go to bed, fooling the naive Jade-Heart. In fact, spirit-breaking incense is only effective for cultivators below the Violet Mansion Stage 5 layer. At this moment, Hua Azure-Cloud directly transformed into an old oil stick, giving Jade-Heart, this social newbie, a tough lesson. He taught a lesson on matters to pay attention to when on a business trip by setting an example. Hua Azure-Cloud, who had his back to Jade-Heart, appeared extremely majestic. He was nothing like the rumored lazy direct disciple. Not only did he understand Jade-Heart's words with just a few sentences, but he also maintained a vigilant mind to save Jade-Heart's life. He had a considerate personality and a noble presence, just his cultivation level was a bit low. Thinking about all this, Jade-Heart's face instantly turned red. How is junior sister's recovery going? Hua Azure-Cloud interrupted her reverie. Jade-Heart said it was nothing on the surface. But deep down, she was like a deer in headlights. Before the two could exchange many words suddenly, a streak of purple light flew straight in from outside the window. Jade-Heart exclaimed with killing intent. Then she instantly drew her sword and placed it in front of Hua Azure-Cloud. Senior brother Hua, be careful, there is enemy activity. And our role model male lead, Hua Azure-Cloud, just went straight into the blankets. Anyway, you have recovered now. It's up to Junior Sister to handle the rest. After all, it's not time to go to work yet. Bladeheart looked at him with a speechless expression on his face. Then she flew directly out of the window. Anyway, her senior brother is just a small fry in the Spirit Palace stage. Even if he comes, he will only drag everyone down. At this moment, only to see Hart standing in the air. Her whole body is filled with blue spiritual power. She, in her anger, slashed down with all her might. Two figures were directly cut down by her. An angry woman is truly terrifying. Being the sect goddess like Hart makes her even more special. So, all viewers, please do not make your goddesses angry. When worshipping your goddess, worship her to death. Looking at the two people on the ground, Hart recognized that they were direct disciples of the Void Spiritual Sect. But she noticed that the two people had lifeless eyes, and she immediately felt puzzled. Could they be blood puppets? This matter is indeed related to the demonic Cloud sect. Before Hart could react, a sudden thunderous 9 lightning whip struck towards her. In the midst of dodging, Hart angrily struck back. Her spiritual power surged violently in an instant. Blue electric arcs entwined around the sword's body. At this moment, she let out a low shout. Azure-Cloud sword art. Cloud cleaving moon slicing. In an instant, an extraordinarily violent burst of sword chi erupted. The sword chi directly cut down the two individuals. She looked down at the two individuals with a superior attitude. But what she didn't know was, her senior brother is currently observing the entire battlefield with spiritual intention. Observing the battle with spiritual intention is indeed convenient. He doesn't even need to open his eyes. The woman on the battlefield looked at the injured man on the ground. Surprisingly, she awakened a hint of self-awareness and anger. Ladies and gentlemen, did you see that? As long as you are handsome enough, you will be loved by women even when you are asleep. A woman who goes crazy for love is truly terrifying. Hart almost couldn't handle it. The raging spiritual chi rampages through the forest. The terror of Violet Mansion 4 layer is unexpectedly intense. Just as Hart marvels at the opponent's strange power. The woman in purple clothes is ruthless and attacks without honor. Hart is no longer retained. In an instant, a blue electric arc flashes around the sword body. Hua Azure-Cloud also secretly admires the talent of her junior sister. She just hasn't realized the potential danger yet. Upon saying that, a green leaf falls into Hua Azure-Cloud's hand. This should be enough. At this moment, the violent spiritual power is seeping out from Hart's body, gathering on the surface of the sword. The long sword is unsheathed. The fierce spiritual power instantly scatters and disperses. Azure-Cloud sword art sword draw style. Only to see the ferocious huge sword wave directly engulf the woman in purple clothes. After that, Hart slowly fell down, just thinking about whether she could wake the two of them up. But the man behind her suddenly launched an attack at the back of her head. It was too late when she realized it. Just at the critical moment, a green light flashed across, directly deflecting the attack. Feeling the terrifying energy exploding behind, Hart also felt a wave of fear. If she were hit, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, what is that green light? Leaves? Who saved themselves? Inside the room, Hua Azure-Cloud looked at her little junior sister and pretended to ask while getting up. It seems you have already solved it. Senior brother Hua Hart was about to ask, but was interrupted by Hua Azure-Cloud. What was wrong with me lying down just now? It's nothing, it's nothing. It's impossible to reach Spirit Palace Stage 6 layer, like your senior brother, just by thinking about it. After speaking, the two of them both turned their gazes to the two people lying on the chairs. At this moment, Hart suggested to go back to the sect and ask the elders to set up the heart-cleansing evil-repelling array to help them dispel the blood puppet technique. But she is also worried that if they go back like this, people from the demonic sect will definitely go harm other places. Upon hearing this, our male lead Hua Azure-Cloud became anxious. For the sake of the 3-day holiday, it seems that only he can take action personally. She watched as Hua Azure-Cloud, a disciple of Void's spiritual sect, approached. Jadeheart quickly questioned, "Senior brother, are you planning to use spiritual intention to enter their consciousness ocean and then pull out the seed of blood puppet? If you are not careful, could these two individuals end up becoming idiots?" "Don't worry, junior sister. Wait. Are you trying to harvest the seed of blood puppet from both of them at the same time?" Hua Azure-Cloud, on the other hand, is full of confidence. Saving people is like putting out a fire. Acting on two fronts is faster. I only saw Hua Azure-Cloud wave his hands lightly, and the seed of blood puppet was pulled out. After they woke up, they found out that they were saved by a disciple of the Azure-Cloud Sword Sect. They quickly expressed their gratitude. After a brief exchange of pleasantries, Purple Cloud talked about what happened. It turned out that it was a week ago. The two of them, following the sect's orders, were investigating the disappearance of several villagers. But as they followed the trail all the way to the small grove, and they unexpectedly discovered a demonic sect elder sacrificing the blood of the villagers. As a result, the two of them were careless and did not evade. They fell into the trap set up by the other party in advance. Then, they were suppressed and turned into blood puppets controlled by the evil technique. Eventually, they were luckily saved by Hua Azure-Cloud. For this, the two of them were grateful to the point of tears. Jadeheart, on the other hand, was shocked speechless by Hua Azure-Cloud's methods. You should know that the seed of blood puppet is hidden deep within the consciousness ocean. People are trying to pull out the seed as if trying to find a needle in a haystack. Even the sect elder cannot accomplish it. While Hua Azure-Cloud effortlessly solved it, as if enjoying smooth chocolate. "Senior brother Hua, when did you learn this skill?" Hua Azure-Cloud casually made up an excuse to avoid revealing her cultivation level. Luckily, she was convinced by him. Afterward, the first thing Hua Azure-Cloud did after saving someone was to ask for money from the other party. Jadeheart's small face was all puffed up with anger. It was obviously just a simple task. There was no need to use any precious materials. They are not fools. However, the next second, she immediately started babbling and couldn't speak properly. I didn't expect that the two not only agreed but also offered a buy one get one free deal. They not only delivered to your door, but also planned to promote the reputation of Hua Azure-Cloud and sect. Jadeheart, who has been hesitating on the side, is actually unaware that the cost of dispelling the blood puppet technique with the heart-cleansing evil-repelling array is at least 50,000 higher-quality spiritual stones. At this moment, Hua Azure-Cloud's heart blossomed with joy. He never expected to make an extra 50,000 spiritual stones by idling outside. Soon after, Hua Azure-Cloud asked Purple Cloud to recall the situation when the elder of their demonic sect was captured. The person is called Qingyun and has lousy combat power. He is particularly proficient in using formations and poison. Hua Azure-Cloud's mouth quirked at the words. I happen to have some Dan pills that can make the user immune to poison for 3 hours. If you have these Dan pills, does that mean you can defeat the demonic sect elder? Purple Cloud's eyes lit up after listening. With these Dan pills, she can easily take down that demonic sect elder in no time. What puzzled her was why it was the three of them. Why didn't Hua Azure-Cloud come together? And he said that he had consumed too much just now. He needs a good night's sleep to recover. When this was said, both of them were scared and quickly apologized. Jadeheart on the side had a black line on her face, because she knew that senior brother simply didn't want to work overtime. Afterwards, she set out with the two of them to look for Qingyun. Purple Cloud looked at the Dan pills in his hand with a hint of disbelief. Are these Dan pills really as magical as he claims? As a little fangirl of Hua Azure-Cloud, Jadeheart chooses to believe unconditionally. After all, once the arrow is shot from the bow, there is no turning back. Just as the three swallowed the Dan pills and discussed their countermeasures, suddenly, a strong wind raged. The moon in the sky was covered by dark clouds. Yu Jade-Heart suddenly realized that something was wrong. But it was too late. At this point, the three individuals had already entered Qingyun's formation. Just in an instant, Yu Jade-Heart slashed out dozens of sword chi with one strike. In an instant, she shattered the illusion around her. The three of them finally realized. They had been transformed into black mud by the corpse, and turned into a binding formation. At this moment, the elder from the demonic sect also revealed his presence. He appeared in front of the three of them immediately. After noticing that the two people had regained consciousness, he secretly speculated that Yu Jade-Heart must be in possession of a mystical artifact. Watching Qingyun Purple-Cloud, who was pretending to be non-committal, the first to disagree, he immediately struck with a big stick, showing filial piety. Just take advantage of her not hitting, play a bachelor once. When the smoke clears, Qingyun is passively activated. The antagonist died due to the unique script of talking too much. At this time, the little junior brother of Void Spiritual Sect jumped up and launched a sneak attack. But Qingyun also did not forget that he was currently facing a 1 versus 3 situation. He directly blocked this attack. He then loudly taunted, "Righteous faction disciple is just stupid. Got hit by the bone-corroding incense and still clueless." At the same time, our little junior sister made her move directly. Just saw a sword light instantly slashing out. However, Qingyun was extremely confident. He even wanted to block the sword chi with one hand when it was about to make contact. He immediately realized that this sword chi was unusual. Afterwards, he turned into black smoke and dissipated. After the smoke cleared, only to see the falling leaves in the air began to dissipate. At this moment, Yu Jade-Heart suddenly felt something was wrong. Qingyun thought that the three had been poisoned. He appeared in the air and started counting down. But after 10 breaths, the scene he anticipated didn't show up at all. Plus, there was one less person on the ground. Before he could even react, the vanished purple cloud appeared directly behind him. She once again used a big stick to show her filial piety. Such deep love made Qingyun so shy that he buried his head in the soil. At this time, little junior brother seized the opportunity to counterattack. He picked up the fan and struck with a single move, lighting 5 consecutive whips Pro Max Sparkle Edition. It made him cough up the old blood from 1982. But Qingyun, who emerged from the ground, paid no attention to his own injuries. He was curious and asked the three why they were not poisoned. However, the three completely ignored him. Purple Cloud even stuck out his tongue and mocked him. In reality, she sighed in her heart. Hua Azure-Cloud's Dan pills are indeed powerful. With these Dan pills, she wouldn't have to fear those evil cultivators who only know despicable methods. At this moment, Qingyun thought, the toxicity of bone-corroding incense is far stronger than that of spirit-breaking incense. Even if one conceals their breath, it will still be absorbed by the skin. Apart from his antidote for poison, there are no Dan pills that can dissipate the toxicity. There must be a mystical artifact on their bodies. Just as he was lost in his thoughts, little did he know that Yu Jade-Heart was gathering Azure-Cloud sword art intending to end the battle quickly. However, she forgot that Qingyun is actually just a hobbyist and only plays summoner occasionally. Just then, he soared straight into the sky. The appetizer game ends here. The heaven-converging blood-refining formation was activated in an instant. Bloodlight surged from the ground into the sky, trapping the three persons in an instant before they could even react. Qingyun immediately performed a second transformation and directly summoned a Violet Mansion 6-layer blood puppet. They watched as the blood puppet gradually condensed. The three of them, who were originally happy, instantly filled their eyes with despair. You should know that the highest among them is only at the Violet Mansion 4-layer. However, it's not over yet. Qingyun sent out the blood puppet number 2 of the Violet Mansion 5-layer to intercept and kill Hua Azure-Cloud. At this moment, Yu Jade-Heart suddenly looked serious. But she didn't know that she was worrying too much. Hua Azure-Cloud is not the small fry she imagined. He is a true big shot in the sect. At this time, number 2 had already arrived at the inn's window. It was about to start waking up the service. The next second, it was dumbfounded. There wasn't even a single hair on the bed. Little did they know that Hua Azure-Cloud had been spectating using spiritual intention all along. She had long since ran to the next room. But he hadn't been happy for a few seconds. The exploration window changed directly to explosion. Number 2, who had just stabilized his figure. It looked up and saw Hua Azure-Cloud, who had woken it up. Hua Azure-Cloud, however, had her right hand supporting her forehead. Her expression gradually turned cold. If you can't find anyone, don't you know the way back? Why do you have to drag others to work overtime with you? On the other side, the 3 people trapped inside the Great Formation. They are exploring cautiously. Yu Jadeheart knows that if they keep fighting like this, they will eventually be exhausted to death by that terrifying regenerative ability. At this moment, Purple Cloud spoke up, saying that he had a move that could completely kill the blood puppet. However, this move requires a long charging time. So, the remaining time can only be entrusted to Yu Jadeheart. Watching her curvaceous figure, her silhouette appears to be slender and fragile. At this moment, she could only grit her teeth and agree. However, Qingyun above formation was leisurely enjoying this desperate struggle. He is waiting for the return of blood puppet number 2. But little did Qingyun know that his proudly claimed number 2 has already been beaten to a pulp by Hua Azure-Cloud. If it weren't for his reluctance to reveal his true strength, he would have wiped out the number 2 directly long ago. Who made him want to sleep? So Hua Azure-Cloud plans to send a friendly package to his neighbor. Under the terrifying thrust, number 2 shot out like a swift meteor. Afterward, Hua Azure-Cloud felt that it was not yet time for work at 9 o'clock. He could sleep a little longer. So he turned around to look for a new room. On the other side, Yu Jadeheart was facing a huge crimson fist shadow. She barely managed to block it after exerting all her strength. At this moment, a sense of despair pervades this world. Blood Puppet is becoming stronger and stronger under the influence of the formation. Watching Yu Jadeheart and others struggling to keep up, Qingyun gradually lost interest. So he ordered the blood puppet to quickly end the battle. Bladeheart looked at the blood puppet charging towards him. Yu Jadeheart's eyes flashed with a hint of despair. But who would have expected a red light to flash behind Qingyun? The red light pierced through the great formation in an instant. The red light also smashed number 1 into the ground. The smoke dissipates. The strange gaze of Jai appears on the faces of the 2. They looked at number 1 and number 2, smashed into pieces. Qingyun exclaimed, "Impossible!" Later, both of them felt that it must have been done by the passing elder of Azure-Cloud Sword Sect. But what people did not expect was that Qingyun had a backup plan. Just one cry of blood puppet enhancement technique. The originally shattered blood puppet instantly condensed. It went straight towards Yu Jadeheart. Just at the critical moment. Purple Cloud's ultimate move is finally charged up. At this moment, she sparkles like lightning all around her. Then she leaps up. The purple thunder clashes with the Blood King. The violent purple lightning bursts open in an instant. And just as the 2 sides were fighting fiercely, our male lead had long entered dreamland. The next day, with the spring breeze on his face, Hua Azure-Cloud felt the morning sun. Just as he opened his eyes, he saw a peaceful day ahead. It seems that his junior sister worked all night, but still couldn't resolve the issue with the demonic sect elder. He then took out his pocket watch. Looking at the time, it was time to go to work. And at this moment, the ground in the battlefield is shattered. In the middle, a huge crater is formed. Purple Cloud looked down at number 1, who had been smashed into mincemeat. Yes, she won. But the previous blow also emptied all her spiritual power. Even Yu Jadeheart couldn't help but feel that this move was really fierce. But the 3 of them didn't have time to be happy for long. Above the shattered formation, a burst of angry roar was heard. It's worth noting that number 1 had devoted decades of effort to it. the two from the Void Spiritual Sect no longer had the strength to fight at this moment. They could only pin their hopes on Jade-Heart, who was brimming with spiritual power at this moment. Strands of blue lightning shot up into the sky in an instant, directly striking the enraged Qingyun. At the same time, he unleashed his blood hand, which was about to strike Jade-Heart, only to see her with closed eyes. A single move, all things returned to silence, instantly shattered the two blood hands. Only the murderous intent in those golden eyes of Qingyun remained. And at this moment, Qingyun was close to madness. He wanted to see how many more swords Jade-Heart could still strike. He just didn't know. Earlier, Jade-Heart's target of attack was not him. And originally, there was only one gap in the Great Formation, which shattered directly. Only in this way can her strength not be suppressed. But at this moment, Qingyun has long been insane. He spared no effort to activate the secret technique at the cost of his life. In his withered palm, there emerged a small-scale formation. Jade-Heart intended to rush forward to stop it, but it was already too late. Several blood swords instantly struck her back. At this moment, her acupoints were sealed, unable to perform spiritual power. What made her even more desperate was that the two from Void Spiritual Sect had once again turned into blood puppets. He wants Jade-Heart to pay the price, to be the first sacrifice for the secret technique. So you give up? I will fill your body with despair. At this moment, Jade-Heart's heart is filled with endless regret. She regretted not listening to her senior brother's advice and repeatedly falling into traps. Just when she was in despair, a voice resounded through the sky. "Old thief, release my junior sister." But she couldn't muster any joy at the sight of her master who came to rescue her. With his cultivation level, isn't he here to deliver her? When Qingyun found out that Hua Azure-Cloud was alone, he immediately took action without any hesitation. Even if one wants to show off, they should consider the stage. And Hua Azure-Cloud just replied indifferently. The blood-stained hand around Qingyun instantly shattered. At this moment, in his pale eyes, all that was displayed was an expression of unbelievable disbelief. Just at the moment when his secret technique was shattered, the two from Void Spiritual Sect also regained consciousness. Little junior brother struck with a lightning 5-chain whip at the first moment. And purple cloud flashed behind Qingyun, the small iron rod flying up. This series of continuous attacks directly caused him to rest in peace. Jade-Heart was full of confusion at this moment. He immediately wanted to ask Hua Azure-Cloud, "Aren't you just a small fry with the Spirit Palace stage cultivation level? What is going on here?" The only response he received was Hua Azure-Cloud's indifferent gaze. Not just him. Even the two geniuses from the Void Spiritual Sect were also extremely shocked. And as a big shot, Hua Azure-Cloud naturally has to disguise himself. So he informed the three of them. He went to the consciousness ocean to remove the seed of blood puppet. He found that the roots of the seed were entangled with the spiritual souls of the two people. At that time, he was afraid of harming the spiritual souls, so he only removed the outer seeds. But this also means that the two of them may be manipulated again at any time. So he is in the consciousness ocean of the two, leaving behind several sword chi. The two from Void Spiritual Sect understood instantly upon hearing the words. Why did their control get released the moment Hua Azure-Cloud arrived? I didn't expect that the so-called scrub senior brother in Jade-Heart's mouth would actually have such profound thoughts, which made the two of them admire him even more. As for Hua Azure-Cloud's naive little junior sister, she's different. She even ended up blaming herself. This senior brother didn't inform her in advance. Hua Azure-Cloud, looking at Jade-Heart's unhappy face, expressed that she couldn't understand. She had already succeeded herself. What was she still fretting about? But she's your junior sister. So adorable. Of course you have to coax her a bit. So he told Jade-Heart that she was the key figure in defeating the demonic sect elder this time. Upon hearing these words, her originally unhappy face was instantly filled with astonishment. Watching Jade-Heart fall into the trap, Hua Azure-Cloud continued to deceive. If Ju, your sister, wasn't kept in the dark, how could she have such convincing acting skills to deceive the cunning demonic sect elder? What he didn't expect was that the two from Void's spiritual sect were also lured in. Seeing the approval of the crowd, Yu Jadeheart quickly wore a satisfied, silly smile on her face.